Welcome to Chapter Sass, the podcast where we deep dive into the books that make you blush, gasp, and maybe even think a little. I'm your host, Season, and with every book, I will be joined with a new co-host with their own hot take, from spicy romances to messy love triangles, and all the glorious chaos in between. We're here with a fresh perspective to unpack the stories we love, question what we think we know, and explore how the book speaks to us. Things might even get a little sassy. This episode is rated mature and will contain spoilers. I also just want to give a quick heads up. Initially, we were going to do 1 through 10, and we did record this episode to go through chapters 1 through 10. Danielle and I were just having so much fun recording. It ended up being over 2 hours, so I just cut this episode in half. So we will go through chapters 1 through 5. There will not be a sassy topic at the end of this, but we will have it next week. And then next week, we'll go through 6 through 10. Thanks, guys. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about The Blood of Hercules. This is part of the Villain of Lore series. This is book 1 by Jasmine Mas. And we're going to do, originally I was doing like chapters 1 to 10, but apparently there's like a quote and mission, like little baby chapters that you kind of need to know. So we're doing those 2 through the chapter 10. I have a new co-host this time with this book. So let's meet Danielle. Hello, Danielle.
Hi.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, one, I'm a Virgo, so I don't want to tell you about myself. It's very uncomfortable for me.
You know, you're giving Alexa's vibes kind of sort of where she was like, they're touching me. No one touched me.
Being touched. gimme. And she's like, no. So a little bit different there. I live here in Chicago. I've been here for a couple of decades now. Most of my professional life has been spent in hospitality. So I spend a lot of my time teaching people how to eat and drink well.
Yes, and I can attest, she definitely does. I always tell people I'm not a cocktail maker, but I'm a cocktail drinker. And Danielle can put anything in front of me and I will drink it and I will love it. So love it.
I got your back.
Okay, we'll get into the first chapter. But first, Danielle, what are you drinking?
Okay, so like every good bisexual, I have 3 beverages. I have my water jug, and then I have my decaf coffee with oat milk in one of my favorite mugs. And then because I'm going to be doing some drinking later today, my 3rd beverage is an athletic non-alcoholic beer. But the important part is the cup that it's in. This is a tiny cup from a restaurant on the island of Milos called Ohamos. And when
move it over a little bit, so you see it a little bit more. Yeah, yay! That's gorgeous.
Ohamos.
Oh, I love it.
The besties and I vacationed in Greece, and we went to Milos a few years ago. And we went to this restaurant like every single day. I tried to get a job there. And they were like, no, but you could have a cup.
You're not welcome here except for the cup. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
I am also drinking a little bit of water because I will be drinking later with Danielle. We have a cocktail competition, so let's have some water. But I also, just in honor of us like going through Greek, got Greek wine. I'm tasting it for the first time. I got it at about I don't know how to pronounce this because I'll take a picture, but it's clearly Greek and it's from Greece. So yeah. So cheers.
Cheers.
Yay. Okay. So like I said, originally we were going to do like the first like chapters, but there's like 2 little pre-chapters. So the first chapter is kind of like a quote. And the quote is, trust is a dangerous game. She didn't know who she was hunting until it was too late. So dun dun dun. Clearly this is affecting what's going on. Who is she hunting? And so now I'm going into this book and I like just don't trust anyone. I'm trying to be like just sus about like certain things. Then we get into the mission. I think that it's the fate. And pretty much her chapter starts off and I just like started laughing. She essentially starts off and she's like smoking a blunt. Essentially, she's like has herbs, her like chilling, like whatever that equivalent is.
Yeah, like witchcraft vibes, kind of.
Yeah. It was just like right away, just like starts and she's like smoking a blunt. And then she says she sees the words, the lost one shall change what is before. Painted death soldiers overcoming evermore. or Titans will inherit the earth and they will be nothing but war. So because like a Faith is seeing these words and she's like in her zone, I'm assuming this is a prophecy, right? It doesn't straight out tell us it's a prophecy, but like my assumption is it's a prophecy. And so she immediately like gets up, heads to the inner chambers of like this arena, and she like demands the Federation to pass this marriage law and make Karen and Augustus professor in this upcoming Crucible year. And the marriage law is going to enact marrying of 26 with immortality, and this isn't really done with Spartans. And we get way more about this later in the book, because I was like, okay, but like, who cares? You're getting married at 26. Like, what the fuck does that mean? But
yes, I was the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, we get way more about it later. I was like, okay, so what does this law mean? And so the Federation of course they're going to obey because she's a Fate. It's all going to be enacted. Then we go to the chapter, which is like the Great War. So we know a little bit more about like what's going on. And this chapter has like a lot of information. I don't know how much of it we actually need, because they kind of sprinkle it later throughout the book. Mm-hmm. So like if you like never really got this chapter, but essentially Sparta before humanity was born consisted of hundreds of immortal Spartans and their animal protectors and local creatures. Creatures is a blanket term for Spartans used to classify any race and civilization who had powers but were not Spartan. And Sparta is very peaceful. Like everyone lived in peace. Then humans came, and of course, anytime you introduce humans, we fuck it all up. And so the first humans saw Spartan as gods, and then they like migrated to what is now Italy, but back then it like formed the Roman Empire. And as humans grew in population, they were populating faster than the Spartans could populate. So like the humans like overcame the Spartans. They also just like stopped believing these gods were everything. You know, they were just like it. So we stopped learning their stories and where their actual bloodlines were, their power, like all of what we think we believe is false.
I just find like all of that beginning stuff, I was like, okay, you're setting me up. Like, do I really need this? And for me, there were a lot of parts of it where I was just sort of like, I had the understanding that what was coming up was supposed to be taking place in the future, but it was pulling so much from like past mythology. And I was a little bit like, what are we really doing here? And then a lot of that stuff that gets explained at the beginning ends up just being explained in the character storylines anyway.
It does. But I will say this did make me think, because this told me like everything that I thought was false of what was going on. So then if we go back to like the houses, because like the good houses are supposed to be, let me pull up my notes. Like the good houses are supposed to be just Zeus, Hera, Athena, Hermes, Poseidon. I could say Demeter, but people can say it differently. I think Apollo and Dionysus. And then the bad houses are supposed to be Ares, Hades, Artemis, and Aphrodite. And growing up, I never really considered Aphrodite as like an evil house. I never really considered Ares as an evil house, even though he's like the goddess of war. And same thing with Artemis. Like Hades is like the only one I would have maybe thought. So it's just interesting to be like, oh, so what am I like? What were we told that is fake? So I just immediately was just like, oh, interesting. Like the villains clearly not the villains. The good guys.
For me, I just went like, yeah, right. Like when I got that info, I just went like, yeah, okay. Because it's like, yeah, like I can kind of absorb it, but the book does a good job, I think, of reintegrating all of that information in the actual story. So then when I was hearing it in the actual story, I was like, yeah, girl, I know, you told me.
I agree. But just some, we're just going to go through and get some history. But I agree. It does a great job telling us later, like if we just skip these two chapters. So essentially all Spartans are from houses that have powers that enhance themselves somewhat physically, mentally, they just have powers. And they don't hurt others. But instead focus on self improvement and sciences. So the Olympians and Chthonic houses, they're supposed to be very smart, very advanced in technology, everything that we wish that we were. So To keep their numbers strong, Olympian houses have children with humans, and their offsprings are called mutts. So we have a lot of mutts coming through. I'm pretty sure our girl Alexis is a mutt. We'll see if she's not. 90% sure she is, but whenever we get there. Anyways, we're broken up into the four. We have four Chthonic houses, which is House of Hades, Aphrodite, Artemis, and Ares. And then we have like the Olympian houses, which is, I said this earlier, which is Zeus, Hera, Athena, Hermes, Poseidon, Demeter, Apollo, and Dionysus. I will say though, the one thing that was kind of confusing is we say like Olympian houses throughout this and like everyone's Spartan, but there are some times where I feel like it was like Olympian and it was like talking about like Hades or like someone who wasn't technically in like the Olympian house. And I'm like, because in my head, they're all Olympians, right? They're all Olympic gods, whether whatever. So like maybe that was just me getting confused. But anyways, um, they're trying to solve a Titan problem because in 2050, Titans arrive and they are completely taking off the human world. And so the Olympic gods rose to power and they like form their houses. But in ordinary to like keep everyone in check, they start to create the Assembly of Death, which is essentially just consists of the people in the Chthonic houses. And then to solve, a problem of quote unquote someone having more power than the other, they decided to like make this gladiator competition known as the SGC. So like doesn't matter what side you're on, both people go in. It's supposed to, again, quote unquote create balance. And so then half a century later, Earth is still being haunted by Titans. And we go ahead and we start our chapter and we meet our character. So chapter 1, and this one's called The Serpent, and it's Alexis, and it's the year 2090. And so this chapter starts off in rural Montana in a trailer park. The trailer park is a quote unquote safe zone with the Hades crest.
I gotta be straight up. I took a lot of issue with the trailer park trope business in this chapter and the setup of this character. Um, I have lived in a trailer park when I was young. My dad and his wife lived in a trailer park. So his weekends I would stay there. So I mean, it wasn't like long-term living. Um, so I take some sort of issue with that trailer park trope. They are not all trashy. They are not all horrible. They can actually be quite nice, especially if you're into small living and that sort of stuff. Um, and then in addition, like the tropes that went on with the trailer park of like the foster parents and the way that they treated her, it almost came across to me in this way that I was like, this was written by somebody who's never lived any aspects of these lives. And it's just like stereotype on stereotype on stereotype. And I got to the point with it where I just sort of like, this is ridiculous, y'all. Come on.
Interesting. So I do agree with you on like the stereotypes parts because I have been to very nice trailer parks. So I do know that they're nice. A lot of people have them from like second homes or like in communities. Like there is very nice. I actually took it differently because also people, I haven't read this book, so I am being surprised as much as you are. I did this with my last book and I think like my reactions was better. So I'm trying not to read all of the books before, like read it as I recorded. And I agree with you, there are a lot of stereotypes here, but we only got to chapter 10. But so far, I don't know. Obviously, it's going to end and Alexis is going to do something, whatever, because it's a book, like whatever. But so far, for what we know, she's going to have the advantage over everybody because she did live like this. So I feel like this set her up for success.
Okay. That's what we would think, right?
Right.
But then you go further along in the book, and this is where a lot of my, let's call it irritation with this character comes in, is you and I can make the assessment that if you are a character who has been written in such a way that you lived what we would all agree is a tortured life, you should have some awareness of how to navigate the world with an idea of like street smarts or whatever you want to call it. But we repeatedly see Alexis existing in circumstances and not having any ability to create awareness of the world around her or the functioning of the people around her or like she has no ability to assess.
Agree. Okay,
And
I
so
feel
that's and so I'm like, make the two fit, make it fit, make her have been this smart kid who kept her sibling alive, like out in nature in Montana through the winter. If she's that person, make her be that person everywhere else. Make the character make sense.
like,
But then everywhere else, she has no ability to like assess
oh,
the
I
world
have
around her.
yeah impression. This is like, and it's hard because like I'm not on the spectrum, or at least I don't think I am. Maybe I am. Who knows? I possibly very
Yes.
well could be, but like I get the impression that she's like kind of on the spectrum. Like she's always like, they're touching me, don't touch me, like do this. So like I feel like that's where some of her street smarts like don't come into play because she like it's not in her nature. But we'll see because clearly she's going to be one of the better students. Like I said, what I'm
Yeah.
saying now, I may not agree with at the end of the book. Just as right now, this is how I'm seeing her.
Yeah. I did definitely think that because it was like, okay, you're hyper intelligent. You're
Yes.
aware of your own intelligence. You can kick in that sass when you need to,
Mm-hmm.
but then like the lack of ability to assess the world around her, I was like, okay, you can't really like engage with people in a way that would
I agree, though. Yep, I agree with
like
that.
like typically make sense with how your character is written.
I agree with that. Because she is. There are times I want her to be louder, and she's just not. Um, so we meet Alexis, and right now she's 10 years old, and she lives with her foster parents who are abusive and neglectful. Alexis currently has two fractured wrists because her dad had like her foster dad like tied her up and like left her there. She like pissed him off or whatever. So pretty much she got her fractured wrist trying to escape. Alexis has like suicidal thoughts. Like a lot throughout the book. Like she's always like, if death could come get me, like it's a little concerning because she's 10. And so Alexis is hearing voices. Rather, she's hearing something, it's invisible. Turns out it's Nyx, who's like an ancient race of invisible snakes. And I have my suspicions, and when we get closer to certain things, I will say certain things, but I do think the fact that Nyx is a snake is important. Maybe I'm wrong, but like right now, I do think Nyx being a snake is important. Alexis asks Nyx if she wants to be friends, and Nyx reluctantly agrees, but she essentially agrees because she doesn't have anyone else either. And so, they're just going to be like best friends. Um, and turns out that Nyx actually cannot normally talk to people. She can only talk to her own kind. So the fact that Alexis can speak with her is a little weird, but little light bulb went off my head. Maybe Alexis is partly her kind, and that's why she can talk with Nyx. When Alexis and Nyx like head home, the foster parents are passed out from their special drink, and I'm gonna be very honest. I don't know what this special drink is. Obviously, it's like their version of hooch, but they were like
Yeah, it's
cleaning
moonshine.
supplies. Is that supposed to be like alcohol? I'm like the way they like wrote it in the book. I was like, it sounds like you're drinking ammonia and you're gonna die. Like like what is like she was like sounds like smells like cleaning supplies and this and this. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
so part of it too, right? This is where like booze knowledge comes in, right? You also have to understand that the description of this drink is being given to us from a 10-year-old.
okay,
So
fair.
this is not someone who has a lot of experience, or hypothetically at this point in their life does not have a lot of experience with um, any sort of like drug use or intoxication or that sort of thing. And we aren't given the idea that she has that experience in the character background. So the way that alcohol production is done, there are parts of alcohol production that actually produce things that get used as cleaning supplies. So when you are producing distillate, now you're not producing distillate in a bathtub at home, but same kind of concept goes. There's a beginning portion called heads, and then there's the heart, and that's what we
Yeah,
all
and
drink.
the tails.
And then there's the tails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heads and tails get used at distilleries as cleaning products
Well,
because there's,
interesting.
yeah, the alcohol level that gets produced in those is unsafe for consumption. So imagine that you are making alcohol at home on your own in a bathtub without equipment. you are 100% at some point making and consuming cleaning supplies.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And this is why it's great to have you on here because I was like, clearly this is their version of like hooch or like moonshine
Yeah,
or whatever
it
we
is.
want to call it. And I'm just like,
That's why there's
yeah.
yeah, that's why there's a history of moonshiners going blind
Oh,
because you didn't get your distillate cut off at the correct points, and you now drink heads or tails, probably heads, and you're blind now because you just consumed cleaning solution.
well, the more I learned, this is why I learned something new today, guys. Glad I said that. I was like, I don't understand like all of this cleaning supplies nonsense. But okay, got it. You use the head. It can be
Yeah.
for cleaning supplies. Okay.
And there was another part of the descriptor of it too that I actually keyed in on. She was talking about like, I can't remember if it was old yeast or old bread. But that's actually a like a production method for making at home hooch. So before like vodka was the drink of Russia, it was this thing called Polgar, which people actually made at home, like in bathtub style vessels. And the yeast that you used for that was bread. You just busted apart bread, threw it in the tub with all the stuff, and let magic happen.
Oh,
Um,
look at this, learning a whole bunch. And look, you're also gonna teach me some more later at our cocktail competition that I'm just gonna be drinking at. So yay.
maybe, unless I have too many cocktails, and then who knows? But yeah, so
Uh,
when she was talking about that, for me, having that like booze knowledge and history there, I was like, oh, I know exactly what's happening here. So they're just making moonshine and they're doing it with the most affordable products imaginable.
which is
Did it
probably
probably,
this. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm certain that it did smell like cleaning products, but I doubt that it had cleaning products like mixed into
Maybe.
it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. 'Cause I was like, "Are they gods?" Like, I was like, "Clearly it's their version of, like, moonshine or hooch," but I was like, "I just don't understand." But okay, I learned something new today. So yay. Um, so the foster parents are essentially passed out from drinking their quote unquote special drink. They also, like, have their own little, like, I don't wanna say speakeasy, but, like, people come for their special drinks, and that's how, like, they make money sometimes. So, like, foster parents, like, kind of know what they're doing. They have, like, a little business even though they're still poor. Nix offers to, like, bite them and kill them, and Alexa's like, "No, it's wrong. That's a sin." And throughout the whole like these 10 chapters, she's like this quote unquote good girl. She like doesn't want to kill people. She like has this like priest father that she like is always reciting things after. But like once we start to learn more and more about her, it's just interesting that that's what she's preaching. So she's like, Nix, you can't buy anyone, you can't kill, we don't kill unless we like absolutely have to. So they go to her cardboard bed, because that's what she sleeps in, and her and Nix fall asleep. Later, they're awakened at the door by a knock, and there's a short elderly woman there with pure white hair and shockingly purple eyes. This is the same description that we have for the fate in like the earlier chapters. So we know this is the same fate that's here. Gives them a boy named Charlie. The foster mom puts Charlie into Alexis' room, and Charlie is 9 years old, and he has the unnatural eyes that almost glow in the dark. So he's clearly something. They get Charlie, very, very like, important. No one asked for Charlie. The family dropped Charlie off. So like they're poor. That's an extra mouth they have to feed. They're already not even feeding Alexa. Chapter 2 was called The Monster. It is now 21, so it's just a year later. Alexa's 11, and it's February, so it's cold, and pretty much they've fallen in hard times. And so Alexis and Charlie are in their room. This is outside looking for food. Charlie hasn't spoken got since they first got there. He does not communicate via like language the way you and me would communicate. And then Alexis over here is her foster parents plotting to kill Charlie. And because it's like winter, they can essentially hide the body and no one would know Charlie's missing until like spring. So Alexis sends Charlie, now she loves him truly like a president. He has taken on the role of sir uh, to the key. She sends Charlie into the bathroom where there is the only emergency phone, which is where you call for like help, but only if you're dealing with like a typhoon or something supernatural. Like in this lifetime, you don't go to the hospital for a reason you would normally go to the hospital. That just like does not exist. she tells Charlie to lock the door. So Charlie goes into the bathroom, and so she tries to confront her foster parents, but she has a stutter, and her stutter only goes away when she talks to Nick and to Charlie. Otherwise, she has a very hard time with her stutter. So she's trying to like defend Charlie and is like, if you want to kill Charlie, you have to go through me. But she's like stuttering. Chapters with violence. So like trigger warnings or whatever, your trigger warnings, but like her foster parents beat the shit out of her. No nice way to put it. Like they beat the shit out of her. And they're like slamming her head against things, they're throwing stuff at her, she's bleeding from everything. And while this is all happening, Lexus is just like thinking of classical music, and she's just like literally let that sink in. You're an 11-year-old getting your ass beat. You're like, let me think of like Mozart's music, like because she doesn't quote unquote feel the pain, or she can like push past past the pain. And so I took this out of the book, but it says after a lifetime of pain, the brain learns how to suffer. I knew how to stay conscious through a beating. Well, I know you were kind of saying like you didn't like the stereotypes or whatnot, but I think this is like preparing her for the shit she's gonna go through later.
Okay, I would maybe agree with that if she weren't so unprepared for the shit she goes through later.
Okay, fair.
She's just constantly tortured and unprepared. And I'm like, y'all, how tortured do we need this character to be?
Yeah.
Like, really? How fucked up and beat down do we need this character to be? Like, she's well beyond. She's well beyond, right? Like, and so that's where it got hard for me is once all of these elements of this character were like, I'm not going to say I know what the line is, right? The line is arbitrary because it's me interpreting this book or whatever. But once all of these elements of this character were like beyond that line of believable, I was just sort of like, this is just really like working for this. Like
Yeah.
we all understood that this character does not have a good life. We all understood that this character is tortured. Like you're hammering it home in a way that makes it almost like eye roll ridiculousness.
Mm.
Where it's like
I
yeah,
don't know.
I got it.
I
got
got it too. I felt sad. Honestly, it just made me feel like I wanted to give her a hug. Honestly, like I just like was like, oh, I need to give you a hug. But I do see your.
No, see my logical brain it yanks me out of it. My logical brain gets yanked out of the story, and I'm just like, what?
But I do get your point that like because of her background, there's no way that she's not street smarter. Like she's clearly brain smart, but like there's no way that she's been living this life and is not just a smidge more just like street smarter. So I get your logic in that because that would just happen naturally. Like street smart is stuff that you learn because of the experiences that you have. Like not everyone has street smart. So like I agree. I agree to that point. But I do think the point of the author doing all this is like because again we don't know what she's going to be tortured with later, but I think it's just to prepare her later on, so it's going to be easier for her and not like the other initiates. Again, I don't know. We'll see.
But here's where also, right? You tell me we're gonna be doing a smut book.
Oh, okay. First of all, most
there is no way somebody is fucking this person.
oh
no,
I think you missed. No, I think you missed some of the clues because we are going to talk about them. I think you might have missed some.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I found them. They were very obvious.
I do think it's going to be a slightly more smut. Well, she even says in the beginning there's open door romance, so which means that like shit will go down. But most smut books don't get smutty until like chapter halfway, maybe more than that. Maybe,
Girl,
yeah.
No, I ain't got time for that. If you told me smut, chapter 1.
Well, I didn't say smut. I said this is a why choose. So I'm pretty sure she's gonna get with the other people that we'll mention later, and she's not gonna choose between them. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right. I got theories. I know who's fucking later. I'm on it.
Which is 11 right now, so she's not fucking anyone.
Praise God. Not that variety of tortured.
Yeah, not that variety of torture. Not right now. So pretty much while she's getting her ass beat by her foster parents, she's like hearing music. She's trying to get out just get out of this. Nyx comes back and hears, and she's like, Nyx is like talking to her and is like, please open the door, but she can't get to the door. So somehow Nyx like comes through the window, which I also kind of question because like Nyx is invisible. Like, do people feel her? Or like I don't know. Whatever. I have a lot of questions about Nyx. But anyways,
Question about that too, because the only person who can hear and communicate with Nyx is Alexis.
yeah.
But in addition to the communication part, in the book, Alexis describes being able to feel Nyx, like next to her or around her body. So we are given information that Nyx does have some sort of mass, but is that mass only available to Alexis? Or does that mass exist outside of that relationship?
Yes. And so I took it as that mass is only for Alexis because her and her brother, Charlie, are always cuddling and whatever. As far as we know, Charlie doesn't even know that she exists. So, like, wouldn't Charlie know? So I'm just confused as to how Nyx came through the door. Like, I 1000% believe certain things, but whatever. Or came through the window. She came through the window. But Nyx comes through the window, and Alexis pretty much just tells Nyx, like, we need to protect Charlie. And so like we like need to go to the bathroom. But however, while they're like trying to get to the bathroom, um her foster mom starts to like look at her weird and is kind of like scared of her now, and the foster mom like grabs a knife and is completely staring at her expression's wild, and Alexis is like she's completely lost it, and the foster mom is now clearly terrified of Alexis, but Alexis does not see it that way. And so like they try to just get to the bathroom, and they do get to the bathroom. Turns out Charlie did not lock the door. He was waiting for Alexis to come back in. So when Alexis comes in, she like locks the door. And then on the other side of the door, the foster dad is like asking for help. He's like, something is killing the foster mom. They need the bathroom phone because they need to call the emergency because it's clearly something. They don't know what it is. Something invisible is tearing her apart. Something invisible. Nyx is invisible. Nyx is though in the bathroom. Nyx is not outside the bathroom. Again, something with her powers that she can see things, whatever, that are invisible. It is screaming on the other side of the door. The foster mom is like foaming at the mouth, and all Alexis hear is music. And so Nyx just tells her, you're brave and there's nothing you can handle in the world. No, Nyx is just trying to comfort her. And then while all this is over, Alexis is shocked. She's in such shock that she doesn't even realize what's happening, because like when she like comes back, she's like in the living room. There are two paramedics that are trying, and I put trying in quotations, to help her, but all they do is belittle her and are assholes. I don't know how else to describe the paramedics. But remember, she's 11. Like, regardless of who you are, she's still a child. But they give her some inspired.
Yeah, but you're allowed to be frustrated by a kid. It's allowed.
No, you're definitely allowed, but they're not frustrated with her. They're like mad that they have to do their job. Like, they were
Yeah,
like,
something I am too.
and I take care of an 11-year-old who got her ass beat, and like they're giving her expired medicine because they won't give her the real things. And apparently, in this day and age, you don't this even though she's like beat, this doesn't qualify her to go to the hospital. So
But her being treated that way by those paramedics furthers the character storyline. It would be out of line for her character for people in that position to treat her well or treat her with kindness.
yes, okay, true. But I mean, just a little. I feel like these don't paramedics and like doctors and stuff like take like oaths where like you're supposed to. I understand there's a like we think and whatever, but like a little
Yeah,
bit.
but I don't think the oath is like you got to be nice. I think the oath is like you don't murder.
Yeah, but again, she's 11. She's not like a 32-year-old person. Like she didn't ask to be in the situation. She didn't ask to be born.
Yeah.
She literally is 11.
Yeah, they are mean, but also we're being informed of their behavior through Alexis.
Yes, that's just true.
And I think this is something that you kind of started to just touch on, right? Is like Alexis sees the maternal figure with like the eyes and the face and is like insane, and Alexis is like, this person is losing it, but doesn't really have an idea of why.
That's
right?
true.
Like there's panic and like the tear up is happening. But then what you were just saying of Alexis like comes to, right?
Mhm.
Alexis like re-enters I don't know, logical reality or the world around her. And this is kind of the first instance that we see of a suggestion of the idea that when Alexis is in these situations, she almost like blacks out.
Mm-hmm.
And so far in the book, we've only seen Alexis's explanations of
Yeah,
what
so
was
yeah,
going
you're trying
on.
to say she's not necessarily the most reliable narrator. So I could see that.
Yeah. I also suspect that like if there were a chapter that was like the paramedics, there'd be like a whole other end to
Okay,
that,
that's
right?
fair.
Because
I'll give that.
we start getting there in the later chapters.
Yeah. I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you. So pretty much the paramedics are like treating her. They give her some expired medicine for her eye is very badly damaged and her ear, her whatever. We don't know what it is yet. We'll find out in like 2 seconds, but like they give her expired medicine. Then a cop comes and is like, "We need for you to tell us what happened because your foster dad is saying like it was a titan or something." And Alexis just thinks to herself, "Well, battery and assault aren't like prosecuted anymore. There's only like one really crime system that like the Spartans agree to." So she actually says, "No, her foster dad was trying to kill her foster mom." And so like the foster dad's taken away, everyone leaves, and they leave the children alone. They don't call it DCFS or whatever version for in Chicago, it's DCFS. I don't know what it is, but they just leave two children alone with their imaginary snake that obviously no one knows is the imaginary snake, but it's just these two people in an imaginary snake. So then she goes to the bathroom, Alexis goes to the bathroom and washes her face, and she discovers a few things. She has now two different color eyes. Her left eye is white, and she's blind out of that eye. And now her left ear, she can't hear. So she is now blind and deaf out of her left side of her body. And her foster parents did that to her. And like, again, during all this, she's just hearing classical music in her head. So like, whoop de do that, like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Which
Uh,
disassociation can be great.
that is, I
It
have
can
to
be
agree with
great.
that. I have to agree. I think
Yeah.
even I disassociate, and you need to. And not only does she hear classical music to like disassociate, she also has like two prodigies or two like female math people who are like her heroes. And so oftentimes throughout this, she'd be like Emmy and Carl, and they're just these two like math super smart people in math that she just like thinks are talking to her. So another way for her to disassociate with the whole thing. And then later that night, the trailer is taken away because it's part of a quote unquote crime scene. So leaving the children outside. And so they are now homeless. Um, it's the end of the chapter. However, we did get a little bit of more information about the houses. I just didn't feel like it kind of went in explaining, so I just put it afterwards. So what we did learn is that there are only 10 Thonic Spartans in existence, and only 5 are currently qualified to hunt Titans. So you're not allowed to go and hunt Titans till you're like of age or whatnot. So the Assembly of Death, which are the people from the Thonic houses who are allowed to kill the Titans or go after the Titans, they're very short staffed. Since the Great Roar, only 5 Thonic children were born: Augustus, Karen, they say Patro, but it's Patroclus. It took me a minute to figure out who the fuck they were talking about. I was like, who the fuck is Patros? And I'm like, oh, Patroclus. Achilles, Helen, and Medusa. Medusa is currently being held in the underworld, in the famous security Spartan prison. I think Medusa is someone we have to be a little bit conscious of just later as we go through the book.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a handful of creatures that like fought on the Assembly of Death side. And so, the Thonic leaders would maybe mate with these creatures, and so they had children. So the next children to quote unquote come of age will be Karen, who's currently 18. Then Augustus, sister Helena. We also talk about her so she might be a little important later, but we don't really talk about her too much later. She's currently 8 years old right now, and she's the heiress of the House of Aphrodite. Then the last two Thonic children are half humans called Mutts, which are Patro or Patroclus and Achilles, and they are also kind of part of the House of Aphrodite and the House of Ares. So we just get like that information was just like sprinkled in. I do think later we get a little bit more about whatnot. So now it's chapter 3, and it's 2099, and we're surviving hell high. So Alexis is 19 years old. She's in high school, and Charlie and Alexis have been homeless and been living out of cardboard boxes. Alexis is apparently like the smartest person in her high school. She tutors for food vouchers, and she tutors a kid named like Josh who got like a 65 on a math test, and that's the highest he ever got. So I think that is trying to show us that people are idiots, possibly, because the 65 is so silly. Which I also didn't want to be like an asshole. I suck at math and science by all means. Like I am not, but like I think the authors are trying to prove that like he was so proud of the 65. And
I think that's part of the story, right? But I think the other part of it is to show us where Alexis like kind of puts her allegiances, like the things that she finds important, or like how she defines another person's importance, right? So like intelligence is paramount for her. Like if she can't get a sense of your intelligence, you're done. You're
yeah,
gone.
I agree. That's a good thing.
I also like having been kind of a version of that person in high school. I was like the arty goth weirdo, right? That is a time when like you kind of learn how to like assess your own importance of things and how that helps you find your own people, right? So like if I find math important and you're not a math person, you're not for me. You know, if I find intelligence important and you don't care about it, you're not for me.
Fair.
So part of it is like, yeah, she's maybe snotty and a little bit awkward and yada yada, but she's also going through that thing of figuring out how she knows like where she fits or when she invites people into her realm. And when I read that bit, I was sort of like, okay, you're kind of a brat about it, but I see what you're doing here.
Yes.
One thing that was super weird for me though, like the way that she was written is she is written the exact same way at 10 and 11 and 19. Her tone doesn't change. Her vocabulary doesn't change. Her attitude about the world around her, her ability to assess the world around her and the people around her, it all stayed the same. She was the same note at all of those ages. We have all been all of those ages. We know that's not realistic, right? So I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more variance in how Alexis was written in those different chapters.
Fair. Fair. I mean, I don't disagree with you because that is true. That you're literally like a child for like an adult, quote unquote. Hopefully as the chapters go on and she's like now in the Spartan school or whatever, hopefully maybe that is a choice. Hopefully it was a choice made, and like I hope she did, like you said, just get street smarter at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah, it does set it up, like having her being written the same way all throughout does set up like a consistency element to it. And what I suspect will be a moment where, oh, now we know who Alexis is.
Yeah, I agree.
Now she knows who she is, right?
I do agree.
It's a little hard for me to believe that you were 10 or 11 in these previous chapters when now you're 19 and you're exactly the same.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna love so many conversations with you, Danielle. This is amazing. So everything is writing on Alexis scoring on the 0.01% of the Spartan Merit test in June. Every 19-year-old needs to take this test. It essentially determines if you can go to one of the top 3 universities that are left in the world. And she is equivalating university money. I can get Charlie out of this world. So she's just I have to do this for Charlie. But because Alexis is poor, she's often teased at school. Alexis is still very pretty innocent. Last week, she discovered what men's penises look like. And I thought that was so funny how she was using the school internet to look at the Greeks gods dicks essentially, and comparing them to things. So I do think
when we got to that, there was a part of me that was like, this is supposed to be the future. This is supposed to be the future, right? But then you got to remember, I don't know what, and the 70s, people thought we were going to have flying cars by now.
Yes, and we don't.
So you know what? In 2090, maybe we will still be looking at dicks on the internet.
Yeah, maybe we will. You're right. I also think because of the Titans and stuff, while they're in 2090, they haven't progressed as much as technology. Also, because the gods aren't there giving it to them. So I think all this is meant to be like they haven't progressed past like 2025, essentially. So,
I also did find that a little bit interesting because I'm like, girl, you are 19 and you haven't seen someone else's genitals.
so she's
But
innocent. So they're framing her as this like very
right,
innocent thing. I was like, oh,
I do find though that that kind of mirrors like kind of current trends of teenagers. Like I have friends and partners who have kids that are around that age, and we are all, I mean, maybe because we're all perverts, but we're all flabbergasted at how prudish these teenagers are. So I did find it interesting that that was written in a way that mirrors like how my friends experience their kids,
oh,
like
interesting. I
currently.
would assume
Yeah,
because the kids have access to internet like 8 years old, they're just Googling stuff at like 8.
yeah.
I
But no,
didn't
there's
get,
like a
yeah.
whole current generation of teenagers that are like wildly prudish,
That
and
is no,
me and their
I did agree with
parents are like. So I found that interesting that that like that element like kind of pulled from current trend.
while they're in class, um, there's like a fight of the Crimson Duel, and so like they projected onto the like the class wall. This is and outside of like the gods or the Spartans fighting Titans, the only other thing humans care more is about the SGC, which is the Spartan gladiator competition, which is held every year. So we know this is going to be a quote unquote like Hunger Games something later on.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. But anyways, back to the Crimson Duel. So the Crimson Duel are Patroclus and Achilles, and they're technically the members of Death. And it was interesting because obviously they hint to it later. They don't really say anything now, but like I was like, well, Patra and Achilles, they were lovers. Like every Greek mythology thing I've ever read, I was like, these people are lovers. So like when they do certain things, I was like, well, of course, because they're lovers. But I don't know if like the world knows that they're lovers, if that makes sense. Which weird, but whatever. Not
I
yet.
think part of that though is like especially in this chapter and as all of the students are talking to each other like while they're watching this video, um it kind, and especially from the viewpoint of the students, it seemed like there was almost this assumption that like everybody's in some form of a partnership, right? Like
Mhm.
queerness is just
Yes.
understood, it's
Yes.
there, it's like, yeah, this is my homeboy and I deep throated him last night, like,
Yeah.
duh, of course I did,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think we're going to run into a lot of that where like having knowledge of some of the mythology that this is based on, that some of that is just kind of going to be like brushed over
Mhm.
because it's just assumed in this
Soon.
society that all of that is going on.
That is very fair because I was just like, where are they lovers? But anyways, in the videos we see Achilles and he's muzzled. And Achilles is the only Spartan who's muzzled, and apparently the Federation considered his performance at the last like SGC 3 years ago, like he was too dangerous because his power of his voice can torture, and so he can put like a dozens of creatures in a coma, which is interesting because what I think I know of Achilles is that he's a great hero and he has a very weak body part. And it's just so interesting to get like this side of like Achilles that like we like don't know. So
Yeah. That was something that for me, like, especially when the book was doing the setup of like the houses and the family names and like who's good and who's evil, I kind of had to choose to let go of any mythology I had already known, right? And you're going to know a lot more than me just like being into theater and stuff like that.
mm,
Like mine is very basic, but I definitely approached it as this is sort of a retelling of these characters or a retelling of like these houses or their stories. So I'm trying to let go of those things where I'm like, well, this is what I already know about you.
yeah, no, I think you have to because in the beginning the author tells us like everything we think we know is false. So that's why I'm saying like, oh, this is what I thought. Clearly, I do need to let that go because the author is going in a completely different direction, which I love because she took a story that we all knew and she's changing it and like making it her own. So I absolutely love it. But to your point, it is there's like a little blurb in this chapter where it says since Spartans are known for having sex with anyone and they don't care whether the gender is, they would sleep with multiple people at once. This is also a fad to humans to like copy their lifestyle. So to your point, it is just, I guess, going to be like, we have to figure out what's assumed, what's not assumed, but everyone loves each other. We live in a very happy world when it comes to like loving other people. And it doesn't matter how you identify. So I'm here for that. And while we're watching this video, like some footage is shown of the Crimson duel. So for Achilles, we know his name's Achilles. His nickname is Son of War, Killer, the beast of the Crimson duel. His lineage father is Ares. His mother is human. His house affiliation is Chthonic. He's 6 feet 7 inches, 290 pounds. I don't know if that's important. His birthday is March 23rd. I do think.
I gotta be real with you. When they got to those bits of the video, I was like, because they're describing like a graphic that came up on the video screens, right? And I kind of got that because it was like, okay, this sort of relates it to how like consumption of like video game culture, right? And even when you look now at like sports broadcasts, a lot of those graphics and imagery are changing to kind of fit that, right? But it was very funny to me the way that it was done because, like, as someone on dating apps, I'm like, motherfucker, I don't care how tall you are, but everybody's like, I am this tall, and I'm like, cool, I'm 5'3" on a good day. It don't matter, right?
Well, I think
so when we got to that part, I was like, okay.
I think it's more like they were just listing that, but I think the important part of that, because I don't know how important the birthday is, but I think after the birthday is what's important, like his power. Voice, he has voice torture ability, details unknown. So
you 100% know somebody reading this book got that birthday intel and was like, what is this man's chart?
Oh,
I'm going to chart
100%.
100%.
Sure they did. I'm not one of those people.
100%. Yeah.
His his animal protector, I'm sorry, is a wolf. His power ranking is 95 out of 100. So essentially he is super, super strong. His occupations are Assembly of Death member, founder of WSDL Weapons Manufacturing, and his net worth is worth $3 billion. And I found this interesting because anytime we get like facts or whatever, we get a net worth. Do you watch The Boys on Prime?
No.
Okay, The Boys is it's a very dark, bloody, gory, sexual. It's all about sex, blood, guts, whatever. It's very graphic. But the whole premise of the show is if corporate America owns superheroes, like then superheroes are not actually being superheroes. Like everything they do was like, oh, this is only giving me 10 points. I'm not going to save that girl on a train because that's not going to give me enough points. That's not going to make me enough money. So it's just interesting to be like, she's poor, struggling, and this dude is worth $3 billion. And it's just like, it just made me think of like The Boys. And it's like, is there an ulterior motive here? Like, is there something else that we don't know going on that we have a net worth of money here? I just thought of that. Yeah. But anyway.
So I had when they did this thing where it was like he's 6'7", I was like, am I supposed to find that hot? I'm like, whatever.
It's supposed to be his, his
when it was he's worth $3 billion, my brain went, that's not that much.
True, but in their time, I think it is though. In our time,
that's yeah. I mean, okay, let's be real. $3 billion is a shitload of money.
It is. But no, but like we're used to like celebrities having like 50, 60, 70 billion. I get what you're trying to say, but I do think like when half the world is living off food vouchers or whatever, I think 3 million is a lot. Like in the book. But yeah.
My favorite part of that though, of the whole video setup, was the kids being like, oh, there's a new video of the duo, and like asking the teacher if they can watch it, and the teacher just goes, well, you're seniors.
I don't care.
I was like,
the teacher is there for a paycheck and nothing more.
Yeah.
The teacher's there for a paycheck, nothing more. So Achilles is like beating the shit out of like this Titan. And then we see the second Spartan come in to frame. Well, first his animal comes into frame and then he comes into frame. And so we see the jaguar, which is Patroclus or Petro's animal. And then we find out that the only person who has the key to Achilles' muzzle is Patroclus, which again, they're lovers. So why wouldn't he have his key? But the stats about Patroclus is his name is Patroclus. His name is Petro, son of sex. So I do think we're going to get some sexy scenes later. The leader of the Crimson Duo, the ideal man, Achilles' handler. I also think we kind of, not to be like an asshole because I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but like when they phrase it like this, I was like, well, I think I know which was on the bottom and which was on top. But who, I don't know. Maybe I'll be surprised later on, but we'll see.
My vote is their switch. I think they'll
Oh,
switch.
I think we will find out. I do think we will find out about this. So,
we're definitely getting some MMS in here. Like,
yes, we are.
100%. If we don't, I'm gonna riot.
The lineage is, the mom is Aphrodite, father human, class affiliation Thonic. He's 6 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds. His birthday is August 23rd, 2078. Powers mental, and that's it. They don't really know much more about that. Power ranking, insignificant data. Animal protector is a Neiman Jaguar, aka Jaguar. I don't know why every other animal is just the name and this one is specific. So I'm just gonna be like Jaguar. Like, they're not like the yellow orange hawk or whatever. It's just like the hawk. So Jaguar. Occupations, Assembly of Death, founder of WSLD Weapons, and he is worth $3.5 billion. So interesting. And so Achilles and Petro essentially take down this Titan. You can't kill a Titan because they're immortal, so they shoot it to death. Or they shoot it to weaken it.
Yeah, they're just torturing it.
Yeah, and then they are gonna take it away. I assume to where Medusa is, so the underworld in the maximum security prison. Then the bell rings, class is over, and Alexis wants to go to the library, but she's called to the principal office. Turns out Charlie got into a fight, but Charlie was really defending himself because the other kid hit him first. Charlie is 18 and they use sign language to communicate. And something that the brother and sister have, which I think is cute, and I think we might get little notes to it later, is that they both have like a C and A tattoo on them. They go home after this to their cardboard box, literally in like the forest. They have Fluffy, which is like a 80-pound husky that they met a few years back, and like Fluffy takes care of them. So I'm like, oh, now we have Nyx and Fluffy. They're kind of like their little animal protectors at the end of the day, right? Like unofficially. Chapter 4 is the merit test. So Alexis is at the end of her merit test, and she again is just thinking like if she gets into a great school, she can help Charlie. At the end of the test, students must prick their finger and like drip to like drops of their blood onto like these circles. So when the teacher comes to collect Alexis's paper, she realizes she forgot to prick her finger. So she makes her prick her finger, and when she does do this, Alexis's blood doesn't stay like everyone else's. Her blood like starts to foam or smoke. The teacher freaks out, so another teacher comes. We're like, gotta follow protocol. So they go to the emergency phone, that like the same one that Alexis had like in the bathroom, and they call. Right away, two Goliaths appear, and they think Alexis is a she, because Alexis has a hood on, and so she could pass for a man. But when they like remove the hood, they figure out she's a woman, and they just assume she's a lovesick teenager trying to get close to one of the Crimson Duos. And somehow they got the blood off the black market. So then Alexis is like stuck with like this needle which has silver liquid. And the silver liquid is supposed to like identify who she is. And then I'm reading this exactly from the book, and it's per the Spartan Confederation merit law. We're giving you enough purified adrenaline to kill a Cyclops. If you're actually an abandoned Spartan mutt, which is extremely rare, you'll survive. But if you're human, you're gonna die because you're gonna be buying this shit off the black market, and you have 3 minutes to live. So like live your life. And so after 3 minutes, Alexa's still alive. There hasn't been a female mutt in centuries. Like there's like an infertility issue amongst them. So the two like Goliath people are like, well, okay, well, per Article 3, like, can you confirm that you're an abandoned female Spartan, but you're now a citizen of Sparta? So she doesn't know what the fuck this is. She's going to take a test, lives in her own little world, and these guys pretty much ask her, do you know that do you have any ties with the 12 Spartan houses? And she's like, no. Then they ask if she had any contact with Titans. She says no. Then they ask if she has any creature lineages. She says no. So then the man tell her, well, you have to be initiated into the Spartan War Academy. They grab her and they portal her out to an arena. They teleport to the like Coliseum where the HPC like battle war whatever games are held. But then she realizes that she has found the ancient civilization Sparta because Sparta went missing after the Great War. So not very many people have it. And so while she's in this arena, she notices that all the 12 houses are there, along with their flags and their shields, or like their animals. I don't know how important it is, but they do mention it a lot. So we got them all. Let's just say it. So the gold lion is House of Zeus. The rainbow peacock is House of Hera. The purple owl, House of Athena. The green fish is House of Hermes. The blue dolphin is House of Poseidon, which I was shocked that he picked the blue dolphin and not like a shark or like some other big creature, but whatever. The brown pig is the House of Demeter. The yellow eagle is the House of Apollo. The purple and green goat is the House of Dionysus. The charging minotaur is House of Ares. The skeleton hellhounds are House of Hades. The rabbit horse is the House of Artemis, and the black swan, how gorgeous, is the House of Aphrodite. So Alexis like looks around and she's surrounded by like 50 other 19-year-olds, except they're all men and she's the only female. Zeus appears. He welcomes this year initiates. They're all heirs or mutts, and creatures of like this new generation. He tells them that Cronus blessed this Colosseum so that they're all going to be equal. So like they're all going to have power or they're not going to have power. So like they're all on the same battleground. Um, and I'm just like thinking, we have such an issue with reproduction. Why the fuck are we sending the people who need to reproduce to kill each other? But clearly there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because you only want to reproduce with the strongest, right? So
we don't have
yeah.
too little to be choosing that right now. You do that shit once there's a lot of us. They haven't had a female one, they're struck, and she's
Sure, but part of the argument is that if you just go and procreate with everybody, you're gonna have quantity, but you're not gonna have quality, right? And that doesn't really reflect Sparta's values. Would quantity be nice? Yes, but quality is more important.
that's fair.
So yeah, right? It's like going on 5 dates in 1 week. You get rid of 3 and keep 2.
That's fair.
No?
That's fair. So then Zeus pretty much welcomes all the initiates. And he tells them that this initiation is like a scarce privilege and it's about to be a massacre. He literally uses the word massacre, and it's an honor to be in this massacre. So like what? You just literally I was taking a test. You portaled me here and now you tell me it's a massacre. Chapter 5. We're still in the Alexis chapter, and it's the initiation of massacre. So it's like pouring rain. Hades like appears next to Zeus, and they're clearly, because both houses, like sides of the houses, like the bad and good house, are working together. This is clearly something they like both sides agree on. And so Alexis is just comparing Hades like a musical note because again, she does everything with. I do think musical notes are going to be important later on. I don't know why, but we'll figure it out. But Hades runs the underworld and the maximum security prison that only houses the immortal inmates of like the North Sea. Again, Medusa's here, and we also do find out for sure that all the other Titans are here. And besides Hades is Persephone, and Persephone is an heiress. And with all the fertility issues, like Persephone and Hades' love is like legendary because they both took a marriage oath to just be together and them too. But something that I think is so funny is how they describe Hades and Persephone. Like they describe like Hades like this lanky, pale, skinny, super tall, like not attractive man, and Persephone as like this dark skinned, gorgeous goddess. And I'm like, yeah, because he knows that she's a 10 and he's not, and so he's not gonna lose her. Like this
But also that's like
book.
that's a classic combination in a lot of storytelling, right? Even like I mean, and you can find that in all sorts of genres. Like you can find that in like Gomez and Morticia,
Yes.
right?
Oh, very
Like,
true.
so a lot of people think of like the Addams Family movies, but like in the original like story comic book, like Gomez was not hot. Mm,
Oh, yeah,
right?
definitely was getting these vibes here for this. But what's also very rare that Persephone and Hades have taken like this marriage oath for just the two of them is because Spartans are known for like sleeping around and having very many lovers. So their love is supposed to be like legendary. And then the book does tell us, which I love this that they told us, while none of the separate Spartan families were related, they were rumored to be as close as brothers, which I think is good because like how I know history is like isn't Ares and Aphrodite like brother and sister, like all of them are related, right? But like here they're telling us no, they just might fuck like their family, but or not that you should be fucking like your family, but like none of them are actually related. None of them are actually related. They're just close. So I did like
Right.
that. So okay, none of them
Right.
are there.
Because we have existed in societies for a while now that we know that the term family can be pretty loose,
Yes, yes. So
right?
yeah, that's
Like,
I'm like, okay, maybe that's yeah, but I agree. So Hades
yeah,
then says the initiate massacre begins now. Like always, weapons are not allowed. Whatever aids one will be killed. So this is just interesting because they say from the get-go weapons are not allowed. And my definition of like a weapon is something that I use that is like not part of my body. So then there's a screaming black fog comes and it closes everyone. Alexa doesn't know what's going on, but she hears screaming, and the screaming is coming from the fog. It's not coming from the other initiates, but the screaming is meant to like distract her and all the other people that are there. Nyx is with her and is a bit confused, and then out of nowhere, Alexa starts getting attacked by multiple people, and this chapter does turn violent. And so while Alexa is trying to defend herself as she gets attacked, Nyx helps by biting everyone, and they die. Is Nyx technically a weapon? Like, if they find this out later on in life, because it's like, like police people have dogs, and they use the dogs to do things. Like, is that not like their weapon? It's a gray area, but I don't know. I feel like that is she's cheating.
I feel like Nyx. Okay, for me, I would be able to consider Nyx a weapon if Nyx was not independent. Nyx is doing all of these things independently. Nyx is not being asked. Nyx is not being told. Nyx is not being directed or managed or owned or any of those things. As far as we understand, Nyx is connected to this character of Nyx's own free will.
Mm-hmm.
And Nyx wants to murder, right? And happens to be connected to and pals with somebody who's like, no, don't, we'll go to hell.
Yeah.
So where does this Father John thing keep coming in? It's like
She
every once in a while we hear about Father John, and I'm like, this motherfucker is coming out of nowhere.
Well,
We
she's
had
in
no
the
talk
beginning.
about church, no talk about nothing, and then you're randomly just like, Father
Well, I
John
think
says
this is
I'm
supposed
going to
to be
hell.
her like true. I think this is supposed to be like her conscience, right? Like she knows killing is bad, like you shouldn't be killing with whatever. So every time things get violent, she like has this like conscious moment and is like, Father John would disagree, but I agree. She doesn't go to church often or whatever. It's like, where is it coming from? But I do think it's supposed to be her like quote unquote like conscience, like her little Jiminy Cricket. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah, to me,
Nick
Nyx is not a weapon.
No, Nyx, if there was a devil and a angel, Nyx is definitely the devil. Like she's like, no, they did us wrong, out the door. Uh so Nyx is biting everyone around her to help save Alexis. Um and things get like again, this turns into a violent chapter. And Nyx is just like, if I had known, I would have prepared you for this. And now you're wondering, okay, Nyx, like, what do you know that we don't know? And then Alexa's like, I don't have powers. And then Nyx is like, no, but it's in your blood, whether you want to believe it or not. And so she's just like, you have it, you just don't know that you have it. And so as readers, I'm just assuming everyone in the arena has to be have powers or are fighting or whatever. Also, we have to keep in mind Alexis is supposed to be this malnutrition 19-year-old who we know she has powers. I'm pretty sure it was her powers that attacked her foster mom, right? But she doesn't know how to use it. She's malnutrition. shit's coming out of her. She's the only girl, not to say that girls are weaker than men, but she's literally the only malnutrition like person there. All these strong men are like attacking her. So I don't mind Nyx helping her, but I do think maybe I do like what you said about Nyx being a weapon if she was using it, but like, yeah.
Right. But also what's been set up about Nyx in previous chapters is like Nyx is looking for it. Nyx
Mm-hmm.
wants an excuse to throw down.
Yeah.
Right? So like there was no chance that there would be any ability to like reason with Nyx or stop Nyx or whatever, right? There's just too many people. There's too many options. And Nyx is like, hell yeah, this is a free for all. I'm doing it.
So I agree. I honestly I love Nyx. Like she needed Nyx to come into her life. Then in the middle of all this going on, Hades yells 20 left, only 10 will make it. And then all of a sudden, 3 people attack Alexis at one time. And she's like literally getting her ass kicked. Like they are pulling, punching, everything. Then we hear things like her ribs are cracking, her arm is like breaking. So like she's like literally getting hurt, but because of the adrenaline they put in her, the Cyclops adrenaline, she's like running just on that. And then all of a sudden, Alexis feels Nyx's like body go like limp, and now she's had it. She's raged because like Nyx is her family. Nyx is like someone she's meant to protect, and so all of a sudden, a shadow figure appears and extends his arm towards the attackers. Not her; they're all together, but just her attackers. Then this boy in this fog clearly has sonic powers. But when Zeus was like welcoming everyone, he was like, there are no sonic children here. It's just the Olympian. So she's like, how is this kid using sonic powers? Then all of a sudden, all 3 of her attackers fall to the ground and they start crying out in pain. And they're looking at her while this is going on. Foam is dripping out of the boys' dying mouths. And then they die. But again, very similar to her foster mom. Then all of a sudden, the boy who did this looks at her, and then she starts to get a little scared. But then all of a sudden, Hades yells, "Massacre over! There's only 10 people left. They all qualified for the Crucible. The fog clears." So Alexis is currently covered in blood, practically naked because they were scratching, like pulling, tearing off each other's clothes. And then all of a sudden, Alexis does feel Nyx climb up her body, and the boys just like knocked her out. But she's just like, "I'm too powerful to die. Like they're not powerful enough to kill me." So now we have the 10 initiates are going to be assigned their Spartan mentors. So an old lady comes with white hair and violet eyes and approaches Alexis and asks her what her name is. So she could write it down in like their tomb or whatever. And Alexis is like, I've met this woman before. I don't know who she is, but she's like, can't say anything. So the woman asks for her name again. Alexis still quiet. And so then the woman who is the fate, everyone remember this is the fate. She says, the fates are rooting for you. Don't you dare make us regret backing you, Alexis Hart. What is your name? And Alexis is like, we really know my name, but okay, it's Alexis Hart. So then Zeus goes and starts assigning all the mentors. And then we meet Drax Chen, and he is the Sonic boy, and I'm putting that in quotes, that saved Alexis. And Zeus says there are no Sonic people here. So she's like, he clearly is Sonic. I'm gonna keep this a secret. I'm not gonna say anything. But I'm pretty sure Alexis is a Sonic. So now I'm wondering, is Drax really not a Sonic? He's an Olympian. But she was hurt. She uses her power when she feels like someone's hurting her or someone else. She thought Nyx was dead. But was she using her power and channeling it through Drax? And she thinks he was the Sonic one, but I think she's the Sonic one, and she was like using someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So then she gets assigned her mentors. And it says, because of her and their special circumstances, Alexa's mentors are Patroclus and Achilles. And right away they come and they don't welcome her. They all think she is because again, they're not supposed to be any Sonic kids in this thing. They think that she's like an Olympian. They pretty much are like, you discuss us, we'll never like you. We're literally just here so that you could survive the crucible so that we could become generals because our powers were amplified if we become a general. Like you are means to an end. Like, don't get it twisted. And she's just like, again, I took a test. I'm here. All is happening. She was like completely shocked. Um, but once all the mentors are assigned, Zeus says, and I find this interesting because I do think this is going to be something that's going to happen later. Zeus says, if an initiate survives the crucible until the end of January, after the citizen initiation ball and the graduation ceremony the next morning, then they will be immortal citizens of Sparta. So this does not mean that they have to just complete the crucible in these fucking games that they're about to complete. She has to survive past graduation, which I think is actually more dangerous because now, like, you're not like people can poison your food and you're thinking it's a party, graduation. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a little bit more. You're not going to be on high alert. So I just interesting how they phrase that.
Yeah, it totally sets up like a battle royale sort of idea.
Yeah, it's like, well, she doesn't have to just make it past the game. She has to make it past graduation. So like, yeah, so just interesting. And then if any initiate was Sonic, then they would be enrolled in the assembly and death at graduation. So I'm 90% sure she is Sonic. We don't know yet, but I feel like she is. So the next 2 weeks, the inmates will spend time healing with their mentors as they prepare them for the crucible. And then after that, they'll start to strategize about like what is going to come after them. And then Petro and Achilles like grab Alexis, put her home, and she fades. Well, that's the end of chapter 1 through 5. Thanks for joining, everyone. See you next time. We'll have a sassy conversation. Bye.